Hello, welcome back. Well, they called her the diva of the decade not so long ago, but she hasn't turned out to be so diva-ish so far. How are you, Naomi Striemer?
Oh, it's nice to be here, thank you.
And you're looking remarkably fresh as a daisy, considering you've done, what, over the last 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
How many?
32 concerts.
32 concerts in Australia over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, we did have 2 weeks in New Zealand, and the remaining 4 weeks here, but it's been wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've been traveling up and down the coast, got to see a lot of the country, and met beautiful people. We've really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Now, I noticed by the way you say coast, that there's a little bit of Canadian there. Is that you were brought up in Nova Scotia, is that right?
Yes, I grew up in Canada, although I was born in the U.S. So, you know, there's the ongoing battle. Where is she from?
Yeah.
And
North America.
Yes,
is the answer to
North
that.
America. And I don't get upset whether I'm called either one. You know, I know there's a bit of a rival here with Kiwis and Aussies.
That's right.
But
friendly rivalry.
Yes, friendly and blessed. Yes, but it's good to be from 2 good countries.
Yeah. Now, as I mentioned before, you were at one stage named Commanding Diva of the Decade by Billboard magazine, you know, which sort of sets up all the charts and all that sort of stuff. That was what, 2006, 2007, around there? What was going on at that time that was propelling you to that sort of interest?
Well, we were just getting ready to release a big single with Carlos Santana, the guitar player. And we were getting rave reviews for that single. And, you know, the press was just all over it. They loved it. They thought it was going to be huge. They thought it was going to be great. And
yeah,
the fact that...
there was a great quote. Someone said, you know, remember the first time you heard Mariah Carey or whatever? Well,
yeah,
this
Whitney
is this
and
moment.
Celine.
Now, yeah, Whitney and Celine. Now you're hearing Naomi Striemer. She's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and that was just so exciting and so fantastic. And I remember people were calling me up, and at that same time in Canada, it was the 2 national newspapers had similar quotes on their front pages. So it was very exciting, but at the same time, I've always been quite grounded and realistic. So when people are saying these wonderful things, I've always thought, well, this, you know, hopefully this gets other people excited to buy the album, and never really buying into it, never thinking, oh yeah, this is truth.
Yeah,
this is absolute truth. Because I think as soon as you start that, you're going to really get your head up in the clouds and need somebody to come and pop it.
Yeah.
So.
Now, you signed an album deal with Epic, which it's a Sony
Records,
a Sony label, at the age of 18.
Yeah.
People saying all these things about you, how you were going to be the rising star, but somehow it never quite seemed to, I don't know, break through in the way that you hoped it would. Why was that?
I mean, there were so many, I call them once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, just huge things. And then right at the last second, all the hype was created, everything was there, the platform was there, and it would always fall through at the last second. You know, and being young, it was really difficult. I think any time in your age it's difficult. When you have a dream, when it's on track, when everything is perfect, and then it just doesn't go the way you would hope or want. And it happened several times, and I kept getting the opportunities, and they kept being bigger opportunities and more exciting opportunities, and then the same thing would happen. And I just kept asking God, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me, you know? Why are you bringing these things into my life just to take them out of my life? And the whole time I really didn't realize that I had never stopped to ask God if He had a plan for me.
Okay.
And so I was just trying to, I guess, you know, manipulate might be a harsh word, but I was really trying to push my agenda through with my dream. And that's kind of how we're raised, especially being American, where it's, you know, like
the American dream. You can do anything you set your mind. Just follow your heart. There's a Walt Disney song that comes at about that point. Yeah.
That's exactly it. And so you grow up with these big aspirations. And even being a Christian, sometimes you forget to say, wait a minute, does God have a plan for me that might not be exactly what my plan is? You know, and sometimes, ultimately, I ended up walking away from my dreams that I was chasing and big opportunities, and it did come to a bit of a head for me.
Before we get to that, I just wanted to ask, do you think, because you were a Christian at this point, you had a Christian commitment, I wonder if maybe your Christian principles perhaps sort of got in the way in some ways of reaching that that high success. I mean, I think of some of the other female artists who were around at the time, Shakira, Nelly Furtado, you know, even Beyonce was sort of starting off her career.
Yeah.
And all these ladies, I don't know how to put it politely, don't mind sort of...
Right, the compromise.
Doing a very sort of sexualised image of the way they present themselves, and there's a bit of a party scene that's involved with drugs and all that sort of stuff. Were those sort of areas that you wouldn't go in? Was that a limiting factor for you, do you think?
Well, everyone I worked with knew that I was the Christian girl, but I think it was much deeper than that. I think it was more of a battle that was going on. And I, you know, at the time I thought it was evil forces that were stopping these deals from happening. Now I look back and I think it was God that was stopping it. Because if any one of them, any one of the $1 million deals and the huge, you know, this is going to be the album of the year, and if any one of those had happened, I know I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't be spiritually where I am. I probably would have ended up being like so many of these other artists that you've mentioned, where they start off in the faith, they wander away from the faith, and even though they might profess certain levels of faith, it's really a life that's centered around them. And I think that's a really dangerous place to get when life revolves around us.
Yeah.
And you know, I always say we're not created for adoration, we're created to give praise. And so I think it would have been a really slippery slope. I think it would have been a terrible demise for me. And I look back now and I see so clearly that God's hand was in each situation that just kind of pulled the rug at the last second.
Wow.
And it got to the point where it became so obvious, where it did get to the point where people were saying, are you going to choose this God thing, or are you going to choose your career?
Wow.
And this has to be the #1 thing you're doing.
Yep.
And God will understand.
Wow.
I remember having that conversation, and that's when I knew that it was the intensity of whose side am I going to be on was getting stronger and stronger. And I think we all get to that in our lives at some point where we will have to make a decision. Are we choosing God, or are we going to choose the world?
Wow. Now, there was a particular incident where you were in a recording
Studio.
sort of environment, and this particular gentleman, was it Puff Daddy's chauffeur or something?
It was a Puff Daddy's studio in New York City.
Yeah.
And it was a chauffeur for the studio.
Yeah.
And he approached me in a hallway, and he'd had a dream about me. It was just such an odd situation. And his dream was the story of my life, and then this proclamation of, you know, you have to make a decision, and then saying my prayers to me of, you know, you keep asking God why. All your dreams are there, and then they crumble into dust. You want to know why it's happening? And he kind of put before me what had been given to him in this dream, which was, you are standing at a crossroad in your life, and you're either going to choose to continue down the path you've been going with all your big plans and your dreams, or you're going to walk away from your dreams and you're going to pursue God. And if you give up everything for God, all your dreams will come true. And you know, I look at that, and it's so funny because people often think, oh, if I follow God's way, you know, He's going to force me into something I don't want. It's not going to be as fun. It's not going to be as cool. But the fact of the matter is, this is God, the person who created you, who wants the best for you, who wants you to be happy. He's not going to design a plan for you that you're going to be miserable in. He's going to design a plan for you that is going to bring you joy and happiness, and ultimately the most fulfillment.
And have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely. I look at my life now, and I'm petrified. I'm actually terrified of the thought of what if I would not have listened, what if I would have chosen my path again at the ultimate, you know, because there was one more opportunity that came after that. And it was working with a huge producer, and I look at that and go, if I wouldn't have walked away when I did, I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have everything in my life that I wake up every day now and go, I'm blessed, and I'm so happy, and I'm just kind of overjoyed with what God has done, and I can't give enough gratitude back because of what God has brought for me. And I look at what my plan was and my dreams were, and it was just so silly compared to what God's plan has been.
Well, Naomi, let's just have a quick listen to just some of your music. There's a particular clip which you can see on YouTube. It's there. But yeah, let's just have a quick listen to that now.
You gave me strength when
thanks for that. So when I listen to that, I hear maybe a little bit of Celine, a little bit of Jewel, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I loved Jewel when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Oh, I was such a big fan. And Celine. Celine was like, you know, Canada. Oh, Celine.
Is this track a part of your current album?
It is. It is. It's From Hope That Breaks the Dark. And if you go to my website, you can find all the places where that is available.
Yep.
NaomiStriemerMusic.com.
There you go.
Yes.
Check it out. Hey, thanks so much, Naomi. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for coming to Australia and visiting.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll see you straight after the break.